Dear brother and sister, listen to me carefully in the quiet of our daily lives. It's easy to become overwhelmed by the multitude of challenges we face as individuals, as communities, as nations. The world around us sometimes feels like a cacophony of division, with voices raised in anger, misunderstanding, and fear. But in this very noise, there is a call for us to listen not only to each other, but to the deepest parts of our hearts, where the voice of unity, of fraternity, of solidarity can be found. Fraternity is not just a noble ideal, a concept that lives in the pages of philosophy or theology. It is a living, breathing reality, one that should be woven into the very fabric of our everyday lives. It is about recognizing that we are all part of one human family, and as such, we cannot remain indifferent to the suffering of others. Fraternity challenges us to look beyond our own needs and desires and to understand that the suffering of one is the suffering of all. It is an invitation to extend our hearts to those who are marginalized, forgotten, oppressed, those whose voices are not heard in the corridors of power or within the security of privileged circles. Solidarity, too, is not simply a word. It is a call to action. Solidarity is the foundation of a world where people truly care for one another, where their fate is intertwined. We live in a world that often demands more from us than we are willing to give, a world that tells us to look after our own interests before those of others. Yet, true solidarity asks something different of us. It asks us to stand with our brothers and sisters, not as distant observers, but as active participants in their lives and struggles. Solidarity is not a passive sentiment, but a vibrant, dynamic force. It is about recognizing that the suffering of one is the suffering of all, and it is about standing in the breach, lending our strength, our resources, our time, and our energy to lift others up. This call to fraternity and solidarity transcends borders, religions, and ideologies. It knows no divisions of race or culture or social class. It speaks to us as human beings, as members of a single, interconnected global family. And yet, we live in a world where division seems to be the norm. We live in a world where walls are erected, both literal and metaphorical, between us and those who are different, between us and those we do not understand. The temptation is to see people not as brothers and sisters, but as strangers, as threats, as others. But in this division we must ask ourselves, what are we building? What are we building when we put up walls between us, when we allow ourselves to be separated from one another by our differences? Are we building a world of peace, a world where every person is treated with dignity, respect, and love? Or are we building a world of fear, a world where suspicion and hatred thrive, where compassion and understanding are replaced by distrust and isolation? It is easy, perhaps, to fall into the trap of seeing the world through the lens of scarcity. Scarcity of resources, scarcity of opportunity, scarcity of love. When we see the world in this way, it becomes natural to retreat into our own corners, to protect what is ours at all costs. But the world is not a place of scarcity. It is a place of abundance. The love and mercy we share with others is not something that diminishes when given away. It is like a well that, the more it is drawn from, the deeper it becomes, providing an ever greater source of strength and sustenance. This is the truth of fraternity and solidarity. The more we give, the more we receive. The more we share in the joy and pain of others, the more we are enriched by their presence in our lives. Look at the world around us. the immense variety of cultures, of languages, of traditions. There is so much beauty to be found in this diversity. It is in the sharing of our stories, of our histories, of our dreams, that we come to know one another not as strangers, but as fellow travelers on this journey of life. When we open our hearts to the experiences of others, when we listen with compassion and understanding, we begin to weave the threads of fraternity into the fabric of our lives. We begin to see that we are not so different after all. This is the vision we must strive for. A world where the bonds of fraternity and solidarity are stronger than the forces that seek to divide us. It is not a utopian dream, not something that exists only in an ideal world. It is a vision that can become a reality if we are willing to work for it, if we are willing to sacrifice our comfort, our convenience, our self-interest, in order to build a world where everyone has a place, where everyone is valued, where everyone is loved. Fraternity and solidarity are not easy, but they are worth it. They ask us to challenge ourselves, to see beyond our own narrow concerns, and to embrace the reality that we are all interconnected. It is not enough to simply speak of these values. We must live them. We must embody them in every relationship, in every interaction, in every choice we make. When we do so, we create a ripple effect, a wave of love and compassion that spreads outward, touching the lives of others, transforming the world around us. It is through these small acts of kindness, these moments of solidarity, that the world is changed. Let us then ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to build? Do we want a world where fear and division reign, where people are pitted against one another in a struggle for power and resources? Or do we want a world where the bonds of fraternity and solidarity are stronger than any wall that can be built, where love and compassion are the forces that shape our lives and our communities? The choice is ours. The path forward is clear. It is a path of love, of solidarity, of fraternity. It is a path that requires courage and sacrifice, but it is a path that will lead us to a more just, more compassionate, more peaceful world. Let us take that first step together as one human family, united in our common humanity, bound together by the ties of fraternity and solidarity. For in the end, it is love and only love that will transform the world. As we continue along this journey, we must remember that the struggles we face are not isolated to any one group or nation. They are shared by all. When we look at the injustice and suffering in the world, it can often feel overwhelming. We may wonder where we can begin, or if we can make any difference at all. But the truth is, every small act of kindness, every gesture of solidarity, every effort to make another person feel seen and valued, contributes to the healing of the world. Imagine a world where every person acts out of a sense of mutual care and understanding, where each individual, regardless of their background or circumstances, feels the warmth of the collective embrace. In such a world, there would be no strangers, no outsiders, no marginalized communities. Every person would be recognized for the unique and valuable contribution they bring to the table. We would begin to see one another not as burdens, not as problems to be solved, but as fellow human beings whose lives are as important as our own. But how can we bring this vision to life? It begins with a shift in our hearts, a shift in how we perceive the world. We are conditioned to think in terms of us versus them, to view people through the lenses of nationality, religion, ethnicity, or wealth. Yet these distinctions, though they may define certain aspects of our lives, are far from what defines our shared humanity. We are not merely our nationality, our religion, or our social status. We are first and foremost human beings, made in the image of those who created us, deserving of dignity, love, and respect. To build fraternity, we must start by recognizing this fundamental truth: we are all human. And to truly embrace solidarity, we must move beyond merely recognizing our shared humanity to acting on that recognition. Solidarity is not a passive feeling. It is an active commitment to share in the joys and sorrows of others. It is the willingness to stand side by side with those who suffer, to carry their burdens as our own, to lend a hand when someone is struggling, and to raise our voices when injustice prevails. There is, however, a powerful tension in the world today, one that pulls at the very heart of our common humanity. On the one hand, we are more connected than ever. Technology and globalization have made it easier to communicate, to share ideas, to learn from one another. We live in a time when the world feels smaller, when we have the opportunity to reach out across vast distances and connect with people from all walks of life. Yet, despite these advancements, we are also more divided in many ways. We see the rise of populist movements that prey on fear and division. We witness the polarization of societies, where differences are magnified and the common good often seems out of reach. This is where our commitment to fraternity and solidarity becomes even more crucial. In times of division, the call to unity, to embrace our shared humanity, becomes all the more urgent. We must stand against the forces that seek to divide us, those that attempt to build walls, whether physical or metaphorical, between us. We must tear down the barriers of prejudice, of hatred, of ignorance, and replace them with bridges of understanding, respect, and compassion. Fraternity is not just an abstract concept, it is a way of living. It's found in the daily decisions we make, the way we treat those we encounter in our lives, the way we engage with the world around us, the choices we make that affect others, even when we don't see the direct consequences. It's in the way we choose to engage in our communities, in the way we show up for one another, in the way we lend our hands and our hearts to those who are suffering. Solidarity is the action that comes from recognizing that fraternity is not just about an ideal, but a responsibility. Responsibility that calls us to be part of something greater than ourselves. It challenges us to step outside of our comfort zones, to act not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to make the world a better place for everyone. Solidarity asks us to remember that when one person suffers, we all suffer. And when one person thrives, we all thrive. In our efforts to build this world of fraternity and solidarity, we must also remember that peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. A true peace, one that endures, is a peace that arises from equality, from the fair distribution of resources, from the recognition of human rights, from the dignity of every individual. Without justice, there can be no lasting peace. Without justice, the bonds of fraternity remain fragile, and solidarity can only go so far. So, as we strive to embody these values in our daily lives, we must be mindful that the work is ongoing. We cannot afford to grow complacent in our efforts or to think that the problems of the world are too vast for us to make a difference. Every act of solidarity, every act of kindness, every moment of fraternity matters. It adds to the greater whole, it strengthens the fabric of society, and it brings us closer to the world we envision. A world where people live not just for themselves, but for one another. Let us take this call seriously, recognizing that our actions have the power to change the course of history. As we work together to build a world grounded in fraternity and solidarity, we are not simply addressing the problems of today. We are planting seeds for future generations, for a world that can grow more just, more compassionate, and more united. Each of us has a role to play in this great project, and it is up to us to decide how we will respond. The time to act is now. As we move forward, we must not allow ourselves to be blinded by the apparent complexity of the world's challenges. The enormity of global inequality, poverty, war, and environmental destruction can sometimes lead to despair, to a sense of helplessness. We may feel as though we, as individuals, are too small to make a real difference. But history has shown us time and time again that change begins with a single step, with one voice raised in the midst of silence, with one hand extended to lift another from the ground. Let us think of the countless acts of kindness and solidarity that have shaped the course of history, those moments when ordinary people decided to act, to take a stand for what is right, for what is just. These moments, though they may seem small in the grand scheme of things, have the power to create ripples that extend far beyond their origins. They create waves of transformation that reverberate across borders, across generations, and across the globe. In our everyday lives, we encounter opportunities to live out this spirit of fraternity and solidarity. It may be through a conversation with a neighbor, through offering assistance to someone in need, or through standing up for those who are marginalized and oppressed. These moments may seem insignificant in the moment, but it is in these small gestures that the foundation for a better world is laid. The challenge for each of us is to see these opportunities, to seize them, and to act with the conviction that, through our actions, we contribute to the healing of the world. Fraternity also means acknowledging the deep interconnection we share with the natural world. Our care for the planet is an extension of our care for each other. We cannot claim to embrace solidarity if we continue to harm the earth and exploit its resources without regard for future generations. The environment is not a separate issue from human dignity. It is intertwined with the dignity of every person on this planet. When we care for the earth, we care for each other. This is part of our shared responsibility, our shared humanity, to ensure that the world we leave behind is one where life can flourish for all. This deep awareness of our interconnectedness must also be reflected in the way we approach the issues that separate us, issues like inequality, injustice, war, and poverty. Fraternity calls us to ask the difficult questions. Why do some have so much, while others have so little? Why is there so much suffering in the world when there is enough for everyone? Solidarity compels us to seek answers, to search for solutions, not for our own comfort or gain, but for the betterment of all. In seeking these answers, we must not overlook the fact that true solidarity begins with understanding. It begins with the willingness to engage with those who are different from us, not just on the surface, but in the deep, often uncomfortable spaces where true dialogue can occur. We must listen with open hearts, without judgment, without assumption, and be ready to hear the stories of others, even when those stories are painful, even when they challenge our assumptions about the world. The path toward fraternity and solidarity is not one that can be walked alone. It is a path that requires community, collective effort, and a shared vision. We are all part of a global community, whether we recognize it or not, and the actions of one person reverberate far beyond the individual. Every time we choose love over hatred, understanding over ignorance, justice over complacency, we contribute to the building of a more just and compassionate world. But this journey also asks us to confront our own biases and prejudices. It asks us to reflect on the ways in which we, perhaps unknowingly, contribute to systems of inequality and division. It calls us to be honest about our own shortcomings and to take responsibility for the ways in which we have perpetuated division, whether through actions or silence. Fraternity and solidarity demand that we challenge the very systems and structures that enable inequality and suffering to persist. This is not an easy task. It requires self-awareness, humility, and a willingness to change. It requires that we examine our own hearts and actions and be open to transformation. But this is also what makes the pursuit of fraternity and solidarity so powerful. It is not a static, one-time act. It is a lifelong commitment to growth, to learning, and to continuously striving to be better, to be more compassionate, more just, more inclusive. The journey toward a world built on fraternity and solidarity is not one we can complete on our own, but it is a journey we must embark upon together. No one person, no one nation, no one community can carry the weight of the world's suffering alone. We must rely on one another, just as we must be willing to share the burdens of others. This is the essence of fraternity, recognizing that we are not isolated in our struggles, but bound together in a common humanity. Solidarity reminds us that we are not alone, that we are part of a larger, interconnected whole. As we continue this journey, let us remember that we are not acting merely out of obligation. We are acting out of love, love for our fellow human beings, love for the planet that sustains us, love for a future where all can live in dignity and peace. This love is the foundation of solidarity, and it is what will ultimately bind us together as one human family. Each day is an opportunity to choose solidarity, to choose fraternity. It is an invitation to live our values, not as abstract concepts, but as concrete actions. Every day, in every moment, we have the chance to make a difference, to show kindness, to reach out in solidarity, to be a voice for the voiceless. These small choices, when multiplied across the world, have the power to transform our societies and our world. So let us take this opportunity. Let us choose fraternity and solidarity. Let us live with love and compassion, for in doing so, we will build the world we all deserve. A world where no one is left behind, where every person is valued, where justice and peace are not distant dreams but living realities. The time to act is now, and the call is clear, to build a world of fraternity, to live in solidarity, and to love one another as we are meant to. As we stand at the crossroads of our shared future, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to leave behind? The challenges are real, the obstacles are daunting, but the potential for change is even greater. Each one of us holds the power to shape the world in ways both small and significant. The path to a world grounded in fraternity and solidarity begins with the simple yet profound choice to care for each other, for our planet, and for a future where no one is left behind. Let us not wait for others to lead the way. Let us be the change we wish to see. Let us extend our hands across divides, tear down the walls that separate us, and embrace the richness of our shared humanity. Let us choose love over fear, justice over indifference, and solidarity over division. In every action we take, in every moment of connection we foster, we build a world not of separation but of unity, not of scarcity but of abundance, where fraternity is lived, not merely spoken. The time to act is now. The world is waiting for us to rise to the call of solidarity, to live with the courage to dismantle the barriers of injustice and inequality. And as we do, let us remember, the strength of our humanity lies not in how far we go alone, but in how far we go together. Let us walk this path, side by side, for the sake of all who will follow. May the bonds of fraternity and solidarity guide us. May love and compassion fuel us, and may our actions echo in the hearts of generations to come. The world needs us, and we are more than capable of answering the call. Together, we can build a future worthy of the dignity and worth of every person. Thanks for watching.